I don't know whether I should sound so surprised, but I am. We actually made it to 10 episodes, so hooray for us. It's been an interesting learning curve from our point of view, and I'd like it to continue into this year, 2021. At the outset, we wanted to produce something that was, quite simply us. No notions of building subscribers, monetizing, picking a theme, none of that. The three of us have always had ranging interests, so sticking to a theme would have been torture. Whereas this way around, it's just torture for the listeners. I've also found it interesting to have a friendly debate over a few of this season's topics. There are occasions where I've had my mind changed from when I went in, which I think is a good thing. Being able to test ideas and see which ones are more solid and which ones are a little shaky has really been eye-opening. So, that all being said, here is the Season 1 finale. We get into a discussion on trilogies and whether they're worth it or just a cash grab. There's a few other things thrown in there as always, but we hope you enjoy it. If you didn't, then you just have to accept that this ain't for you. So just for extra added off the wallness for the episode, we've sprung the topic on people at the last minute. So we've decided trilogies. There you go. That's your starter for an hour. Well, it depends what you mean by trilogy. Right, whoever says that, you're out. That's it.
Well, I think there are a couple of distinctions.
Oh, he's off. That's it.
Because you've got the things that were designed as trilogies, and then things that have been made into trilogies.
Or worse.
Like The Hobbit. 1 book, 3 films.
It wasn't even a very long book. Is that a proper
trilogy? No, it wasn't.
No.
But is that a trilogy? Or is that just 1 film in 3 parts?
That's the...
Because it's 1 story, but...
I mean, if there's not an overarching story to a trilogy, is it really a trilogy, or is it just three films?
It's 1 story with 3 cash grabs. That's what it is.
Indiana Jones, the original 3, was there an overarching plot, or was it just Indy's life as the overarching plot?
I guess it's just that it's the same characters in the same, let's say, universe.
I mean, not that Indiana Jones actually makes any difference to the outcome of most of it, but
You've said this before, and it's very depressing, very upsetting.
I mean, great films, I love them, but yeah. Indy's kind of pointless. As a character, as a plot device.
The title character.
Indiana Jones 7.
He's just somebody there to follow along and watch the action.
Yeah.
Someone to strap a GoPro to. Oh,
But they were discrete stories, so but it wasn't. I wouldn't say that was designed to be a trilogy.
There just happened to be 3 of them for quite a while.
True. And does a trilogy need to have 1, 2, and 3 in its name?
I don't think so.
No, they call it the Matrix trilogy, though, don't they?
They do.
It's rumoured to be becoming a quadrilogy or more.
Yeah.
There's Alien, which is now up to like 6 films. But I think it's only the second one that's got a number in it. What is that?
No, Aliens.
Aliens. Alien 3 Resurrection or something like that.
But I like the 1, 2, 3-ness numbering of films.
What?
Then
I prefer the 4, 9, 3.
No, because then I know which one's the first one to watch. Like with Rocky.
So Star Wars must just like throw you for a loop.
It is a bit. I have to look it up every time. Like, I'm trying to think which one. Like the Resident Evil stuff. They say Resident Evil and then some word after it.
Yeah,
so
and you're like, well,
apocalypse, extinction, new life, or something like that. I don't know. A New Hope.
I
Never
really
watched
associate
it.
as anyone who's ever tried to write a document with that version controller, I totally understand the Resident Evil film names. It's final, finalist. Absolutely not
It's
doing
like Die Hard. Die Harderer?
Die Hard. Someone stop us, please.
Die More Hard. Die Hardest.
I've never thought of how rude Die Hard is. Oh dear. It's just an hour of someone trying to shut the coffin lid.
Oh, man. Oh, here we go. How far did we get there? We're not even at 5 minutes there. 5 minutes of record time on the
You just make a special coffin.
Used to get them with little bell towers on. Remember?
Yeah. It's a common problem. Yeah.
Apparently so. Just
Hang on.
tingle
It's
it when...
ringing.
Just bash it with a hammer with you.
That called. I've got the feeling it's an inappropriate word.
It's not a clock tower. It's a...
No, the name of the thing in a bell.
The donger. Is it the donger?
Yeah.
The bonker, yeah.
Clapper.
Pendulum.
Clapper. Yeah, that sounds familiar.
Anyway, not a trilogy.
Not a trilogy.
I'm struggling to think of an actual trilogy that is a trilogy and haven't made some more of.
Lord of the Rings. Whether you would, because again, there's a massive overarching thing, but it's 3 books and 3 films.
Yeah, that's a classic.
Godfather.
Yeah.
Hmm.
What else have we got? Tumbleweed.
Say anything Marvel. 'Cause I don't know who
No.
first hit upon that idea, which is a brilliant idea. Like, rather than doing, film 1, 2, 3 and follow on, we'll do universe with overlapping groups of characters that we can just constantly nest in until the point where we're, like, in 20 years' time, we're watching Star Wars, the intermediate story of how Vader got his coffee made, in that kind of thing. It's just funneling down and down and down into more detail. How's the post delivered on the Death Star? There's a story.
Oh, it's got to be those suction tubes.
But they've done that with Star Trek, haven't they? There's an animated series now, Below Decks.
Yes, Below Decks. Apparently, it's quite good.
It looked all right. I haven't watched any, and I'm not a Trekkie at all. I don't know who's who, but it looked interesting. But that kind of thing is that's how it's the IT crowd, but on.
Yeah.
I kind of, other than it maybe being just taking advantage and trying to milk the money out of it, I quite like the idea. I mean, there's a lot of things that have a really good. I'm going to stick with universe, and I don't like that. I'm going to stick with. They have quite a good universe, quite a good set of characters. It's quite nice to
Keep
make some of
exploring.
the stories for them. I
Yeah.
don't know. I don't know where the limit is.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say. Where's the limit? Because at some point you just overdoing it. There's only so much you can wring out of.
The Matrix is interesting. I'm quite interested to see a new one, but I know a lot of people who really, really, really liked. I really liked the first one, and then the second and third I thought was such trash that I don't really have any fond memory of it. And I really overwatched the first one, so I've not watched it much. But in the second and third, I just didn't like. So I'm actually quite looking forward to a fourth one. Interested to see what happens.
But you seem quite on the fence about 2 and 3. It's
Yeah,
I'm struggling to see
definitely.
It's just
You know,
trash.
this brings me back to cave paintings being terrible. I mean, I feel the same about video games. I mean, graphics were just awful at some point, and just because they were the latest, greatest graphics, they were still awful. You could still tell. But some people seem to revel in them, and like The Matrix, people seem to think it was good, but it looked terrible when it was new.
But it looked
Obviously
better.
so, I mean,
It looked better than anything else.
yeah, but still terrible. I mean, it
Well, I mean,
didn't
not
look better than
terrible.
anything else.
Like-
It looked better than anything else that was made with CGI, not better than
Yes,
stuff
yeah,
that was
yeah.
made with models. Still looks good.
Yeah, Blade Runner.
But yeah, it just looked dreadful.
I don't think it looked
Really-
dreadful. I wouldn't say like it wasn't perfect by any means.
It was unwatchable. I don't know.
I hated it. That's gone from loving the first Matrix film to absolutely hating it.
That is a problem with me. I find that
So fickle.
how much I like a film is really built up more in how much I'm looking forward to it than anything it can actually do. The film is almost irrelevant because I really enjoyed the first one. Like I said, I overwatched it a bit, but then so I'm really looking forward to the second one. And it's just like, oh, this is
When a new film's coming out, I kind of get excited about it, and I think I try and adopt Ryan's approach, like avoid the trailers, don't read anything about it, just judge the film when it comes out, see it,
Yeah.
then that kind of thing. I try, right, but I'm
so do I. Like I often end up watching trailers accidentally,
and sometimes it's good and sometimes it's bad. Like the Joaquin Phoenix Joker one. I watched everything that I could before that came out, and I was like, please be good. Please be as good as all this looks. Live up to your promises. And it was. I really enjoyed it.
It was a very good film, yes.
But the one I got taken in with was like the first Suicide Squad film. I was like, oh, that looked really good. And, Jared Leto's Joker looked interesting. And I was like, oh, I was interested to see what he does. And so I was like, oh, really good. Then I watched it. I was like, oh, he's not in it. He's not in it.
But Zack Snyder is doing Justice League again.
Oh, yeah.
Because he got kicked out of it. And now he's been allowed to redo it.
Right.
With more and betterer.
The same cast.
Yeah, it's pretty it's a lot of the original footage, but also other stuff that was put aside, or I might have filmed some new bits and pieces for it.
Oh, so they're doing not a director's cut, but a first director's cut.
Yeah, original director's
cut. Yeah.
So that'd be interesting to see how that is compared to the original.
Mm. But the one at the moment that I'm seeing that I can't help watching the trailers is the Batman.
The Batman.
The Batman.
The Batman.
The Batman. With what's his name? Robert
Pattinson.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting.
I quite liked what's his name in the bit of Batman that he did.
Ben Affleck?
Affleck, yeah.
Yeah, I really like Ben Affleck.
I quite liked him.
I like him as Batman.
Hang on a minute. We've just
We
agreed
agree.
on something. That's it. End it now.
There's the cliffhanger.
This new guy, Pattinson, is it Pattinson? Patterson?
Yeah.
Pattinson.
He's the Twilight kid, isn't he?
Yes. Yeah, he's got that unfortunate history.
The only thing that's the only thing I think I've seen at least one of those. So I've seen him in a bit of that, and there's a picture on Netflix at the minute. I can't remember the name of the movie. He looks like he's in his sort of western, and he's got a really stupid grin on the still that they've chosen to show you whenever it comes on. So they're the only two things I know about him, and I just can't imagine it going well. But yeah,
So I've seen a bit, and it doesn't look terrible. Like from the clips I've seen of the Batman.
I think it looks good, yeah.
What kind of Batman? Is it a dark Batman? I like the dark ones. Not Christian Bale, that was awful.
He's going to have you. It does look dark. It looks more grounded kind of stuff. It looks more, that way that Jason Bourne went back to the basics away from Bond gadgets.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of got that kind of look to it. It's more detective, a bit brutal.
Which is why I really like the Ben Affleck stuff, because he was just a pissed off old man by the end of it.
Who else was the bad guy in the Batman?
They've got it's
Yes, a few.
Colin Farrell's playing the Penguin.
Yeah.
Yeah. You have to look like really hard at him to see it's him. And from a still I can't get it, but when he moves and talks I can get it, it's him. I think they've got all of them in there. Like there's the Penguin, there's the Riddler, there's Catwoman. So it's, all guns blazing. Looks good. And the Nirvana tune for the trailers. It's good.
I find it really easy to avoid trailers at the minute. I don't see any. It's only really when I went to the cinema that I'd see trailers anyway.
Yeah, I go hunting for them.
From time to time I do, because I don't even know what comes out without going to the cinema to see what's up and what's coming. I don't look for it, so
what
I just
posters
don't
are on the wall?
You won't be able to go to the cinema without having your vaccine passport done and being
rapid flow test outside.
Yeah, being swabbed outside.
I normally try not to drink too much.
But yeah, cinema's going to be a lovely experience.
Stick this up, stick this down your throat.
At least the Everyman, you've got a bit of space. Well, we're looking for sponsors. I'd definitely be sponsored by the Everyman.
That's true, yeah. Yeah.
I'll come and review your films. I don't hate all of them.
Probably.
Probably. I also like The Joker. I can't remember what the most recent film I've been to see was. It's more than a year now.
Yeah, that's the most recent. Yeah.
It wasn't the Star Wars,
Oh yeah, the Star Wars trilogy. Triple bill that we went to see.
It wasn't. Yeah.
Which one? The original.
The new ones.
Which new? The new ones.
Yes.
7, 8, 9. That must be 7, 8, 9, right?
Something like that.
What?
I rewatched the most recent one quite recently. Because I think I'd only seen it that one time we saw it at the cinema. Did it start at midnight?
Yep. Yeah, it did.
Is that right? So
and we'd been sat down for 5 hours.
Yeah. We just watched a lot of Star Wars, and I remember thinking it was just a bit alright, but I quite enjoyed it actually the second time. I mean, they're really different to the original trilogy, but I was still quite entertained.
Yeah.
What are they? What's the new one?
Rise of Skywalker is the latest one.
The Force Awakens.
Force Awakens. And...
that must be 7, and then whatever goes in between. The Force gets a wee bit stronger.
Last Jedi. Last Jedi.
The Strengthening.
The Strengthening. That's a good title because you can keep extending that. Have as many sequels as you want, a little bit stronger.
Funnily enough, the latest one's got the same name as its porn edition.
Is it?
The Rise of Skywalker.
I see. Oh, dear me.
As narrated by Yoda. Amazing.
Yoda. The Rise of Skywalker will be. Sorry, just go back to the coffin.
Amazing midget Yoda fluffer that we've got going on.
Oh my goodness. But hey, they they were done as trilogies, weren't they? The separate groups. The first one was.
So yeah, you got 4, 5, and 6, then you got 1, 2, and 3, and then you got 7, 8, and 9, and then you've got the Star Wars stories interspersed in the releases.
I find that confusing because it's not quite the Marvel thing, but it kind of it's like Star Wars 7B and then 8A.
Well, no, because Solo is set before 4, but between 3 and 4, I think.
3B then.
Yeah. But it's no worse than the Marvel thing, because quite often, because the cinematic release date is not the chronological order of the story.
No, I can accept that.
But you don't
Yeah,
like Star Wars.
the Star Wars ones, they're just a world where the Force exists. And
Yeah.
the Marvel ones, they're just a world where
Superpowers exist.
superpowers exist.
Hmm.
And same for X-Men. There must have been a trilogy of X-Men before there were 17.
Yeah, 1, 2, and 3.
Oh yeah, thanks.
That's how trilogies are.
But like, there's quite a few trilogies that have then had another one added on. So like Indiana Jones, and then Toy Story, that was a trilogy for ages. Mission Impossible, that's now to
Okay.
what, like 23 or something like that?
I have no idea.
6 or 7, maybe 8.
Yeah.
There's one. They're not
The
this
first one,
one.
the first
the
one was
classic
quite good,
one,
wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then you got like the girl with the Millennium Trilogy. Is that what it's called? Girl with the dragon tattoo,
Mm.
played with fire. The other one,
The
Spider's
Hornet's
Web?
Nest.
Hornet's Nest. Yeah, but then they've done the Spider's Web, which is a new one. Yeah, so like,
I
do
don't
we
think-
count trilogies with an added extra?
Well, what are we trying to get to here? What?
I don't know. We were just discussing trilogies,
I was just
so
discussing
I'm not
trilogy,
sure if I
yeah.
can discuss the films that aren't purely trilogies.
I think you hit on it at the beginning, where like there's some that are designed as 3 separate films because of the lengths of the stories. But I think one thing that gets me is like, okay, it's going to be a trilogy, but there needs to be some story arc within each of those films. Like you can't just be pressing pause on a 6-hour film.
Oh, what the hell? I watched something and it was really like that. You just get into it and then it ends and you say, oh my god, that's so nice. I always feel a bit like that. The first Lord of the Rings I really like, and I always feel a bit disappointed when it ends.
Yeah. I mean, the last Harry Potter film, that was like one book
2 films.
split into 2 films, but it was just there you go, wait another year.
Yeah.
It's because I just reached a point where I just stopped watching them. There's loads of Marvel ones that I just stopped watching. I was like, this is just going to go on and on and on and on. There's no kind of satisfaction. Like
I got bored of them, and I think there's some pretty mixed quality as well.
Yeah.
They were generally, the effects were generally to a pretty good standard, but story-wise, they were a really mixed bag.
Yeah, like the couple of Thor films in the middle were a bit meh.
Yeah.
But then
Yeah, I think
Ragnarok
that's
was
what
brilliant.
bored.
It kind of happens with like series as well. Like
Series.
series.
Here I. Seropods.
Them episodic. There we go. Like there's a discrete story per episode. But yeah, they'll have little hints of like this other thing that was 3 episodes ago comes back, and then it moves on for the next 2 episodes, and then we pick up another storyline. So there's other threads throughout, which is fine. But within each episode, you still get. I mean, we watch a lot of like episodic crime drama, US crime drama stuff. So there's always a. Oh, here's the crime. Here's us solving it. Here's who done it. You always get that. Unless sometimes they split it over 2 parts.
You got the big bad, which is the overarching. There's this naughty person who is behind the scenes doing all of this.
In that kind of thing, I often feel like the overarching thing's been forced in because they feel like they should have it. And actually, what I really enjoy, the episodic kind of like that sort of thing, like US crime drama. You're not watching for anything complex or.
No.
It's just harmless TV, and when they try and build in an overarching story, I find that quite tiresome. They're really trying to make it a thing. You just want this, like early House. I really liked early episodes of House. It was just the same. Everyone was the same.
you notice that a lot when you start to binge watch things.
Yeah.
because like first off, the show and like the showrunner and everything like that, they don't know whether this is going to get taken up by the network for a second season. So
it's
we have
not
to,
worth investing into that massive
like,
overarching.
Yeah, it's a pretty cutthroat business for that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But I came across a real gem of like episodic stuff, like an Amazon Originals. Have you seen Tales from the Loop?
No.
Oh, no, I've seen a trailer from that. Every time the trailer from that plays, I think, oh, that looks interesting. But I've never come back to watch it.
I'd recommend. It's slow paced, and like they're pretty much hour long episodes, and the pace is quite slow and drawn out. But they're like cinema quality things, and the stories and the ideas are really good. It's like it is sci-fi and technology, but it's not about the technology and the science. It's more like the human like response to it and implications of it. Like it reminds me a bit like a modern day Twilight Zone kind of stuff, like where the stories were really, really quite good and the ideas were really good. I've been watching a couple of. They're really good.
People either love it or hate it, according to the reviews. Like 72% positive, 5-star, and then like you've got a few percent for 4, 3, and 2, and then 14% for 1 star. Like, it's very polarizing. That.
Yeah.
Did you watch The Boys? That was
I've watched some of it.
One. I really liked it, but if you look down the reviews, it ends up with a sort of middling status because it came out weekly, so half the reviews are 1 star saying, why is this weekly? That's really annoying. And the other half of the reviews are 5 stars saying, I absolutely loved it.
There needs to be like some sort of education or, moderation of reviews. Like, review the product, don't review the service. Like, the number of reviews, like, this is going way off topic now. The reviews is like 1 star, arrived slightly battered. And you're like, that's not the product. That's not the thing that I'm interested in. That's your delivery driver.
There's a bit of a line. I agree. Reviews could do with being clearer, because if you order something and it doesn't come well wrapped, then that's
different.
Is about the thing. Yeah. But really, so often if I look, I mean, basically I just buy books from Amazon. That's my my reading of online reviews, and I'm usually just a little bit interested to see what people have said about the book, and I couldn't care less about if it has some pencil scribblings in or whatever, because I mean that I often buy them secondhand. I don't really care about that. But the reviews are really mixed between I really like the seller or I really like the book, and I'm just it should be 2 separate things. I mean, it clearly is 2 separate things.
Yeah.
It should also be out of more than 5.
When they have to colour in half a star. You could just do out of 10.
Oh, there should be a guideline. Yeah, I mean, what do you want? I want like average. If it was out of 10, I want 5 to be a middling, passable result. So you've got some room to maneuver on a review. Not like you give something 4 stars and like, why didn't I get 5 stars? What could I do? I mean, nothing.
Not you were perfectly adequate. Like, you didn't include free Haribo though, therefore you lost a star. That would have made things better.
I just have to keep a star in case for incentive for you to improve.
It's a very good point though, because like everything is geared around like 5 out of 5 for sellers and everything like that. Whereas surely a 3-star seller should be great in this, and a 5-star one is an exceptional seller. But people don't rate it like that. It's like, oh, everything was fine, 5 stars.
If you ever look on eBay, because you get a percentage, I don't know how they calculate it, but what you basically should do, I can't remember if it's take off 90 and just look at the last 10. I think it might be take off 99 and just consider the decimal place, because everything's like 99.7 means 7 out of 10. 99.1 is like terrible. That's 1 out of 10. It's just... it'd be hard to rate a trilogy. What if you really like one of them, but you don't like the other two?
That's why they do it sometimes. It's like, yeah, with this film, we could hide it a little with two other good ones. Or we do a really good first one, people want more. We do a disappointing second one because it's cheap. And then we're like, okay, we're going to overpromise now. And they come back and they'll be like, oh, I'm willing to give it one more chance.
Mad Max.
Ooh.
Which is now 4 films again. But first 2, great. Really kind of gritty, Australian. Thunderdome was the third one. Which was hilarious to watch.
I can't really remember them. Did one really, really camp it up? Like
3.
Is that one I'm thinking of?
Yeah.
Like, it's all dressing up stuff.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
Whereas 1 was like filmed on a shoestring budget in Australia, and
yeah.
And then Terminator. First great, second great, third.
Which is the third one?
Rise of the Machines. It came out in the 2000s at some point. It had the female Terminator.
Oh yeah. I know what you mean. And then they've done loads more. I quite like the most recent one, Dark Fate.
I've not seen it.
I quite liked it.
It's in my basket somewhere.
I've not seen many of them. I think I've seen the first one. It's one of those things. It's one of those things like there's so many of them now. It's like, oh, do I really want to get into this?
Yeah.
What I really liked was if you don't watch the trailers for the second one. I don't want to say it. If you ever plan on watching them, don't watch the trailers. That's all I'll say.
Ooh.
I don't know
one
if
of those
Matt
trailers
knows.
that tells you the full story.
It reveals certain things.
I can't think what's in the trailer, but I could speculate that probably it's maybe the stuff about it that's common knowledge now.
Yeah.
I would guess that maybe takes something away from it, but
yeah. Well, when it first came out, the only reason they did it was for a specific reason, which kind of was good. It was impressive and everything, but yeah, it kind of ruins the film. It doesn't ruin it. It just spoils.
I'm going to have to go watch the trailer for that later. What would you plan to make a trilogy? Lord of the Rings makes sense. I mean, I don't know how it ended up being 3 books. Presumably, I mean, that kind of makes you've got to split a story at some point, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I wonder if
I've never read them. I read half of the first one.
Publishing thing. Like, was the book too big to be published easily? If they included all 3 stories, was it a cost-saving measure?
I think if you have like a 900-page book,
yeah,
then the idea is there'll be fewer people willing to buy it than if you released one 300-pager and got people into the story. More people are likely to take it up and then buy the second and buy the third. So, yeah, 3 lots of what, £9 is it, a paperback kind of thing?
Yeah.
Rather than £15 for a slab. But you can buy it as one book now anyway, so it's been proved.
That's gonna be just a bit weighting, a bit unpleasant to one hand hold open. You got to be a bit uncomfortable with a book that size, I think.
Although they like anthology of Stephen King short stories I'm reading, which is like 900 odd pages, it does hold itself open nicely on the dining table.
If they could make that a feature of books, they could sell them to me like that. This will stay open while you're cooking your tea and reading your book.
Yeah. Yeah. But then also, it's too thick to fit in like a book stand kind of slot thing. It just like falls on you, crushes you.
You get concussion if you read in bed.
Yeah. Hmm. So did the Matrix was announced it was going to be a trilogy, wasn't it? Before it,
Yeah,
they started.
yeah, it was planned. I've just quickly read the publication history of the Lord of the Rings books. It's actually 6 books.
Even better. If 3's better than 1, 6 must be better than 3.
But it was written as one book, and like conceived, like it was meant to be one book in its, and then it was kind of got split into 6 sections, and then they grouped 2 of the sections together for each book.
Just think we could release a page at a time.
You
People could buy it a page at a time. Subscribe.
Release it on Twitter.
You could see when
tweet
your
at a
writing
time.
becomes terrible. Like, so how much is a book?
8-9 quid for like a 300-page paperback.
Let's say 9 quid because that makes the maths easier.
Right.
So if we charge 3p a page, that's wrong, isn't it?
Right. Where are you trying to get to in the end? That might help.
I was like, you could, if people are willing to pay £9 for a book or 3p a page or whatever it is, like you could tell when your writing becomes intolerable. Like if people buy the whole book, you know you've written a great book. If people stop buying it on page 103,
it's like YouTube watch time. It's
yeah. But for books, because all it would need is like this book is £9, pay as you go, like a mobile phone thing. Like every time you press the next page, it takes an extra 3p off.
Yeah, but that model would then drive how they're written. You'd literally have a cliffhanger on the end of every page, trying to make you turn over to the next page.
I was
And
thinking
then
about
you
that.
did.
Talking about series.
Well, no, I
it's
think
horrible, isn't it? A cliffhanger like that. Every episode's a cliffhanger. Like, oh my god! Every page a cliffhanger. You'd be a bag of nerves.
Or you just set up some. They just set up some ridiculous. I want to know that in like the first chapter, and they don't tell you it until the very end. There's no hints or anything along the way. Like, when's it gonna get back? What's that? It's George R.R. Martin. It's like, when are the dragons coming? When are the dragons coming? They're on their way. They're on their way.
33 chapters later, they're a bit closer.
I've never read any of them. I don't know whether I should get into it.
I liked them.
I just saw the shelf in Waterstones like buckling, and I thought, oh, do I want to get into that? And
I mean,
then we got locked down. And I thought I probably should have
borrow
bought that. Oh yeah, you said yeah.
When you drop my sofa off. Like April or something.
You want the Kindle edition? That'll save you some.
You think how many times he's gonna have to charge the Kindle?
Yeah, and at 3p a page.
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
That's going to be some data that Amazon knows when people stop reading.
Undoubtedly.
I'm always amazed. I spend half my life being offended at how much data everyone's mining, and the other half being offended at how bad they are at using it. Like, I'll stop watching something on Netflix, like an episode and a half in. It keeps telling me about it. It even suggests things because I watched that. Well, I mean, I stopped an episode and a half in because I didn't like it. How is that not obvious?
Yeah. I've de-authenticated my Kindle from the Amazon universe. Whoop. Maybe contributing towards Jeff Bezos's $150,000 per second take home. No, I can do without. Okay, but that's another For another time, that one. We can't have reached the end. Trilogies.
I don't know if we've reached the beginning, have we?
No.
Well, we haven't even got started.
Oh,
we just discussed some trilogies. Are trilogies a good thing?
I think go back to what I said. It depends how they're done. Like if there's some overarching story and then there's some individual story per them, then yeah, fine, fair enough. But when it's just Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1, and that is literally what they call it, and it just ends with,
But would you sit through 9 hours, 6 hours of a film?
I think I don't know whether I agree with that argument.
If the story is there and the story is good, does it matter that it's split into 3 parts?
But the medium of cinema is such that people are
historically.
In seats. Well, yeah, but you can't.
Not anymore. Like with home viewings of things of a possibility.
Yeah, true.
There are a lot more now. I think taking that into account, there are a lot of series that are like hour-long episodes. Each of them it is really like a long film.
Well, that tells
in the
from
cinema, I'm never going to want to be in the cinema for more than, I don't know, 2.5, 3 hours. It's got to be like the upper limit.
Just specifically the Harry Potter one. I mean, I can see why they were discrete films, like the series up to that last point. It's just
if they'd done
way...
that, but released them both at the same time, and done it as like a back-to-back, you could have even gone to see one after the other with like a little break in between, and that would have probably been better, I guess, than seeing one and then waiting a year.
Yeah,
that's got to be part of it.
It's the break in between. Like, there's no serious... It seems like a harsher break, a harsher split in between those two than it does between the other films. Because yeah, there is a, there's a continuation, especially the later films when it picked up a bit more momentum. There's a continuation between them, but it's not like the whole film. You don't get a journey.
Well, it's based around years of the schooling. So yeah, so each film is a year of their schooling.
Yeah, but there's like something that they have to achieve within that film, and they go on it and try and do it and obstacle and overcome it, kind of thing. But with the last one, it just seems like they just press pause on it for you. That's all. Like you go away, fill up your popcorn, put the kettle on, go about your normal day, come back in a year, we'll press play for you. There you go. Something like that. So I don't think that trilogies inherently are a bad thing, or serializing films like that. I don't think it is a bad thing. I think there are bad ways of doing it.
What was if it was a 2-parter, like just 2 films, and they split the story at some random point? Are you just annoyed at people splitting films in annoying places?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Not that it's a trilogy or whatever, no.
But are you against the films that you have seen like that? Like, do you think the films work as a whole film if you just splice them together?
Yeah. Yeah.
And you like the films?
Get the feeling I've been led somewhere here. I don't want to be. I don't know why. In so much as I can, yeah. I don't object to the story. That there may be things in it that I don't like. Obviously, right? I'm not going to find it.
Would it have been better to skip some of the story bits and make it into one film of a standard length?
It would have been less annoying because there's no split. Like I always know there's more in the story because it's come from a book. You know, the book is there. You know.
Yeah.
I don't need you to read me the first half and then put a bookmark in it for a year for me and say nope. Nope. Come back tomorrow. That's enough for bedtime.
Are there any films that have done that aren't based on books?
Sorry, done what? Done the splitting?
Done a split of a story like that?
Matrix. Although they're discrete, aren't they?
Yeah, for the most part.
Where does the first one end?
Kill Bill?
Oh yeah.
Oh, now this is going to get interesting.
Yeah.
Because it is basically just one continuous film, isn't it?
Yeah. Ooh. Good call. I don't know why it feels less like a cash grab. Kill Bill one. I don't know why.
Because does it end with her in a coffin underground? Is that the split? Or not? I can't remember.
I remember because I just remember it all as one film.
Yeah. Does it count down through? Does it count down like or up through the people? I can't remember.
It
has
dots
like
around
story
doesn't it?
titles, doesn't it?
Yeah, it dots around.
Yeah.
Like chapter 1 is entitled 2.
But that is still just one story, not from a book, so there was no predetermined storyline. This was made, whether it was Tarantino's decision or whatever, or it was a publishing marketing decision. I don't know.
It ends with a cliffhanger, doesn't it? It ends with the teaser. Does she know about her daughter? That's it.
Yeah.
It does. It's kind of bit episode-y. Like, this is episode 10, so we may have got some viewers by now.
Oh!
If I actually start publishing them.
Ooh. Who would have thought?
One viewer per episode. We're hoping for that many.
Ooh,
Double digits, baby.
I listened to one, so that's one of them.
I can't remember what they the only one I keep thinking of is that Harry Potter one, and I can't remember where they split the film in the middle. I just remember it feeling awkward about it. That could just be my prejudice.
Did they film it all at once? Did they all get a year older between?
Probably.
No, I'm fairly sure they filmed it all together.
Yeah.
But it's the same with Lord of the Rings. That was filmed all together and then released a year apart.
Bit epic.
That's an interesting thing to do, isn't it?
Mm.
I guess that can only be about money making.
Logistics come into it as well, and age of characters.
Oh no, I mean filming all at once, so that just makes sense.
Oh yeah.
I mean releasing it a year apart.
Gave him time to edit it all and everything like that, because I don't know whether it was all produced and ready and then they just went, right, we'll release that one next year. I assume they got the first one out the way and then started working on the second two while it was in the cinemas or whatever. I don't know how to the wire it was, but if you're going to release them 2 years apart, then why not give yourself a bit more space and time? It's also a very brave decision, because if the first one flops, you've then got all this footage and you spent all this money on the other two films. Oh.
Straight to DVD.
It's coming out in 4K and they've redone.
Is it even longer?
No, but they have redone a lot of the CG.
Not in a Star Wars kind of way.
I don't
have
think
they?
so. No, I think they've just. In fact, yeah, they must have edited it slightly later on because I think the graphics are slightly better in the later ones than the first one.
What about the trilogy versus the cinematic universe model? Because I think that's a more recent invention. Because they started. You remember we went through an era where it was like, oh, it's the era of the sequel. They're doing sequels of everything now.
Then the prequels came out.
And it started to say, oh, it's not a sequel. It's just all efforts to not be a sequel. And it's like, oh, the trilogies. And there's been a few, you'd call them at the time, freak series, like Rocky 7, all that kind of stuff. It's like, it's there's a few films that do that, but not the majority of them. And then it's like, most of them were, what's the word now? Sequels, that's it. And then trilogies. And then they realised we can't do trilogies and prequels and things for everything because it'll get confusing. And that's why you get some of those naming conventions like Resident Evil, Apocalyptic Noon,
Apocalyptic Noodles.
Half past afternoon, that kind of stuff. So people can't tell it's a numbered film. It's just another film in the franchise, that kind of stuff. And then some genius hit upon the cinematic universe. You could just do that all. And
I think what we've discovered so far is that there's no such thing as a trilogy. There just happen to have been 3 of some things. I mean, Lord of the Rings is about the only one that's managed to stick to it. And even that, I mean, The Hobbit's really part of the same kind of thing. Who knows a little bit more?
Yeah, it's all part of the Hobbit is the prequel.
But I like the idea of the universe, actually. I think maybe it gives a bit of freedom to explore other stories and not just rehash the same ones and the same characters.
Yeah. But like the Marvel Cinematic Universe thing is no different than the comic book that it came from. Like there's multiple universes in the comic books. There's not just the Prime universe, there's all the other universes, and there's different styles and slightly different looking characters and powers that they have in the different universes. Yeah, there's all sorts of universes that have been in book form. Like Star Wars, there was a whole expanded universe thing that is now called something completely different. It's not called expanded universe anymore. It's just other writers wrote Star Wars books and comics and graphic novels and stuff. And then Lucasfilm went, well, we could do that. And then so you got the Solo story and Rogue One and stuff like that, which is stories from the Star Wars universe that aren't in the major plot line, as it were.
I'm a fan of the universe thing. Like in terms of exploring different stories.
Mm-hmm.
And like when something is a good story, yeah, fine. It doesn't really matter too much where it came from or what it's related to or that kind. As long as it in itself is a discrete story, like it works as a story on its own.
Mm-hmm.
It's just when you've got this big net of interweaved stories between films and stuff, and yeah, of course you're going to have like overlinking plot things between them that make sense and match up and fit in like this kind of jigsaw puzzle. But it's just when you get those one films that are just like, it's a filler. This one is just here to set up these characters for the big thing that's coming 2 films down the way. And you're like, it just feels like a wasted time. Yeah. Like as a viewer, it's like a waste of time.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I mean, I think at least we felt kind of the same. We got a bit bored with the Marvel stuff. It did feel like it was just building to this thing that you knew was coming. And then when the thing did come in the end, it was also split into 2 movies. I mean, they would have been very long. It kind of makes sense, but I don't know. Yeah, a bit exhausting. Some of the films were definitely just in there to get you towards the end story. They weren't just there to be good films on their own.
Yeah, well, as people creating the stories, do you want to be tied down to I must tell my story in 2 hours, or do you want that freedom to be able to tell a story over 5 hours, 7 hours, 20 hours?
I think that comes down to the medium then, because like if your story is that long and complex and convoluted and not convoluted, that sounds a bit negative, but then you have to pick a medium that suits that story. Then don't you? You turn it into a novel or a series of novels, or even like you were saying now with streaming, like I was saying about this Tales from the Loop thing. They're hour-long episodes, and they kind of match up, and I really enjoy them, and they work on their own, and they also fit together. So why wouldn't you fit your 20-hour story into something like that?
What was the film we started watching when I visited you at uni, Matt? And it turned out it was some 8-hour epic film. German submarine Das Boot or something like that?
Das Boot, yeah.
Das Boot is like a 3-4 hour film.
Yeah, but that was produced years ago, well before the modern epic long films.
That's a trend as well that's happened, is films that have got longer. Now a 1 hour 45-minute film's considered like a quick watch. And then they always, you look back at some of the films and there's 1 hour 15, 1 hour 20, and it's getting into it. You have your epics, I don't know, what's that one? Ben-Hur and Spartacus, those kind of big epic kind of ones. And Das Boot, I suppose, it's pretty epic, but we
didn't watch it all. Yeah, so is this new trend for longer films a bad thing? Do you want it split into more films, or
what's extra in the film? Do you think? Do you think they're packing more story, or do you think there's more noise, more cruft around it? I don't think that conceptually films are getting more complicated. I don't think they're packing more ideas into a length of time. I think they're certainly a lot of films like the Marvel ones, there are long sequences of bits of crap you could just cut away because they don't really add anything. It just looks pretty. I'm not saying you necessarily should. You could easily imagine ways to cut out a chunk of time out of a lot of them.
Matt wants the documentary versions of films.
I like my web pages to be plain HTML, and I prefer prefer my films to get to the point.
But when
just
tell me who killed him at the start. That's fine. That's all I need to know.
I like films where nothing happens. I like needs to be in the right kind of film.
Have you watched Knives Out, Matt?
Knives Out.
I have. It's pretty good.
It's a very good film. I kind of like that sort of film.
Oh yeah.
You have seen it?
Yeah.
Yeah, where it tells you the same story 6 or 7 times, but it changes each time because you've found out this new interesting, and it just completely changes how you look at what you've just watched.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
But just going back a little bit to what you're talking about, would you sit through a 3-hour film, 4-hour film, and that kind of? Is there stuff to cut out? Yes. Yeah, there's stuff to cut. Some writing advice that you get for crafting a story. You take out anything that absolutely doesn't further the plot at all. You have a character that's trying to get from this place to this place, either physically, emotionally, or whatever. They're trying to move. Anything that doesn't need to be on that line is you get rid of, and I think there's quite a lot of some of these things. We need to have an emotional heart-to-heart comedy scene here. I'm thinking of Marvel here. Have an emotional heart-to-heart comedy scene here between these two characters. It's you don't really need that. you want that because you want these two people to be, you want us to.
Well, then, like in if you go to a murder mystery sort of film, then surely all you need is someone to come on at the start and say this person was killed by this person using one of these, and that's the end of your film. Like if that's all, that's furthering the plot. Like the rest of it is just meh.
No, you need to know. You need the why. You need to know
why though. Like
why.
And there is building suspense and all that, but I think Jack's right. A lot of films I've seen recently, you could cut off the last 10 minutes, which is just a pointless. The film's finished and they don't know how to end. You get a lot of music tracks like that. It's clearly finished and they don't quite know how to end it. It's just going to gradually fade out or something. And even the fading out, sometimes it comes back a bit and you're just like, oh my God, you could have ended it. We were all ready. And I find that with films, they need a little emotional bit at the end. Or I sometimes like the like what happened next kind of thing. But often I do think they could cut out a chunk of that.
Beethoven's Fifth. That's one that I've always thought it just doesn't know when to let go at the end. There's so many like final stop. Yeah, like there are rules. There are rules for these guys.
No, there aren't. No, there aren't.
Don't make me sit down for 3 hours in a cinema because my popcorn only lasts past the opening
5 minutes.
No, but there are established rules for like story that people have worked out, and yeah, you can flex those, and yeah, you can break those, and that kind of thing. But
then why are there rules if they can be broken? They're not rules.
Because generally they
guidelines.
Work. Yeah, kind of. But they're there for a reason, and yet you have to have a reason to break one.
No, I don't.
That isn't just to get me to sit down for longer or to get me to come back for another film. That's not a story reason. That's a mwahaha reason. Yeah.
But then the Batman vs Superman, the theatrical edition, is not as good as the director's cut extended edition, whatever they decided to call it. That has extra scenes in it that actually tells the story better.
Does it still have extra bits in it that you don't need though? They just
I don't care.
The wrong bit. You don't. I don't care. It's Superman awesome.
Was that?
Batman vs Superman. Yeah.
You know that like it's going along quite nicely, and then they like tag on the fight with whatever that guy's called at the end. That did feel like it was a separate movie. It felt like it was like
the Abomination.
Yeah, and it was a terrible name. Generic name for a bad thing. Oh, the abominable snowman. Yeah,
Yeti.
Yeti. I mean, it needed something, but there was either too much of the build-up, or I don't know. I didn't think that quite worked. I was reasonably entertained. I didn't hate it like the internet seemed to. But,
well, I said I don't know which version you will have watched.
Neither do I.
Because I didn't see it in the cinemas. I only saw it when I bought the physical media.
Oh, I got the download version, and they keep changing the cover art on it. It really annoys me. It's the one that they upgraded to 4K for me. Thank you very much.
Excuse me, I'm trying to find my tiny violin.
These first world problems. Yeah,
I know. I hate it when you give me 4 times the number of pixels I paid for.
Change the cover art.
All I've got is this. Will this work?
I have no idea what that is, and it looks horrendous.
What is it? Pipe cutter.
It's a pipe cutter.
Oh, whoa. Yikes. Oh.
I've got some plumbing to do.
What a great catchphrase for a trilogy villain.
I've got some plumbing to do.
A plumber-nation.
Just the plumber.
Yeah. Oh, he died.
It's funny. It's got all the same character names and exactly the same plot as the porn version of itself. And the same actors. What an amazing idea.
Thank goodness for that digitally remastered soundtrack.
I find that something that really, well, it doesn't upset me, but sometimes the music will be absolutely great with a movie and the movie terrible, and and not really vice versa. I don't think I can have a great movie with bad music, but you can have music
It's
that's
weird
clearly good and a
watching
movie
something
that's
without
bad.
the music in it. Like if you watch something with music, and they take it away, and you're like, "Ooh, it's very quiet.
Yeah.
I don't like this. I'm alone with my own thoughts."
Just me and him.
My pipe cutter.
Just inching closer and closer. Sooner or later, I'm going to try it.
I mean, I'm fairly sure it could cut through your finger.
Oh, finger, yeah.
Okay.
It's a pipe cutter.
Moving on. It will solve the original problem that we came up with at the beginning with bell towers. It's,
Just its own little mini coffin.
I don't know why.
It's like some
Here lies.
obscene Penn and Teller illusion going on here. Now it's not the
Here
sort of the lady in
lies
half.
Fred Smith and his cock.
I'm just imagining a coffin with a little, like, a lighthouse on top.
I mean, that was like, was it the Victorians who came up with all these weird coffin inventions? To, like, just in case you got buried alive, you could ring a bell and light a light and send smoke signals.
There's just goes to show that these kind of industries that pop up, based on fear, totally pointless things based on fear, like insurance. That's it. Insurance companies. There you go. Pointless. Although, if you do want to sponsor us and you are an insurance company, feel free, because we know you've got a lot of money.
I mean, insurance does make sense.
Some insurance, mate.
Some insurance, if you can't afford to replace it.
Like house insurance makes sense.
Depends.
No,
The
if you're
buildings
Jeff
insurance
Bezos.
makes sense. Because that'd be a problem, but the contents insurance, by and large, doesn't make a lot of sense.
Until you have it all nicked.
But that hardly happens, and
Yeah.
you could manage. I mean, it does happen for sure, but by and large, you're just worse off. The average person is worse
How's your
off.
bike?
That was nicked in town and was not insured. I don't know how much I would have paid in insurance throughout my life to know if it would be better or worse.
So I've only just started insuring my bike because I now have house insurance and everything. So it was trivial to add it onto it. But I balked at paying insurance just for my bike because after a few years of not having it nicked, I've spent double, triple the amount on my bike. Doesn't make sense. But speaking of trilogies, I have had 3 bikes nicked in York.
3 bikes.
One I have back, 2 I have not.
Actually, I've had 2 bikes nicked. But one of them I bought for 60 quid from Macro. Cycled it coast to coast with Robin and left it locked up outside a train station for a fortnight while I was away. So when that got nicked, I wasn't too surprised or too sad.
Your problem now.
I didn't report that one.
Yeah.
You should lock it up and curse it at the same time.
The other one I paid. What did I pay for the other one?
It wasn't.
I can't remember what I paid. Like
It wasn't
400 quid or
inconsiderable.
something.
It wasn't the most expensive bike in the world.
Yeah.
It was a good bike.
I actually liked it better than the one I replaced it with, which is the one model up from it. It was just a slightly better fit for me.
Yeah. I just hope that the wheels collapsed on the bike that I had most recently nicked. I relaced it, so I just hope it just collapsed.
Then you actually get a claim from someone suing you for the bike that they nicked.
Living a poorly maintained bike with an inadequate lock.
Yeah. Bait bike.
Is that what those cutters are for? You're going to go and nicking bikes? Only 3. Only take them back. What was yours?
Well, 2, because I did get one back.
It's cutting through the top tube. Forget that. It's cheaper for me to weld this back together than to buy a bike.
What do you mean you can't weld carbon? What the fuck?
Yeah. Duct tape.
Fill it with epoxy, it'll be fine.
I don't think you can cut carbon with that. I mean, it'll just crumple, won't it?
Functionally the same solution.
Worth a try.
Just welding up, just like stick an old broom in there or something like that as a temporary fix.
Oh, well, this has been wide-ranging conversation. From the
well, you said
obscene-
trilogies for an hour, and we've done an hour and a bit, so we're on to the extraneous information.
Well, yeah. I maybe we could talk for 2 hours and split this into 2 episodes.
Oh no!
Yeah.
Oh!
You're thinking small now. Let's split it into 3.
Oh yeah. We could.
Oh, we need
this
2
out.
cliffhangers then, though.
Ooh.
I was struggling to come up with one.
Will there be a second part?
Will they get to the point?
No, it's not a cliffhanger at all.
No.
I'm more and more convinced there's no such thing as a trilogy. That's all I've learned in this episode about trilogies.
If somebody's listened to all 10 episodes of this, well, or 12 episodes, depending on how we deal with this final episode, like they will know that we don't get to the point.
The point is not the point.
It's how you get to the point.
It's not the point.
Or how you diverge massively from it and run in opposite directions.
Yeah. It's the joy of discovering the random connections.
And
If
Jackie's wrong.
I was thinking this the other day. You're trying to give me a complex, and I'm not that wrong that much.
Well, at least 10 times.
You were right about something today, weren't you? And I've forgotten what it was.
Oh.
Mm.
Yeah, see, we can remember every time we were wrong.
Yeah, exactly. You see, it's confirmation bias you're suffering from. Who's right about something today? Like, the way he said that, it's like, it should be an event. I'm going to get you a card, he says. Like,
Can you get a sound we can play every time you write about something?
yeah, it's called My Voice.
Ooh.
No, you're wrong about that.
That's because I went silent there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. You would have been right until you stopped. If you just keep talking, no one can tell you that you're wrong, so you're right.
Well, I'm going to try and call this one to an end, but I have thought of
Join
a
us in
cliffhanger
part 2.
in part 2 that may never appear. I have had a cliffhanger thought that we will not answer in this episode because I'm going to end it after this. But I had an idea the other day.
No,
And
that's it.
my question was, could an AI, right, become a heroin addict? And by
How are you
that,
spelling that?
yeah, drug addict, addicted to something debilitating. Like, because they have this reward feedback loop, don't they? Of that, so they know they're getting better, and it gives them a reward, so they know to do more of that. Like, I think, could that be hijacked, and they could totally go off on one and just go and sulk in a corner because this is so much more entertaining. Okay, fulfilling. There you go.
Well, if you spell it with, you put an E on the end, I think that's correct.
Addicted to heroines.
Yeah. He just loves Xena.
Yeah, well, hey, that's understandable.
I don't think that's a cliffhanger. Yes.
That's part 2. That just Matt's.
There you
Yes.
That's it. It's a really short episode.
No, it's an hour long, and they're just somewhere in the middle of that. There's just a yes.
That's like those annoying BBC news articles that you read through. Like from the headline, it's like, "Is your fridge trying to kill you?" And you read through the whole article about research on fridges and the deaths from them, and you discover it's like 3 people once back in the 50s were crushed by a fridge once. Like, well, not repeatedly crushed by a fridge. That's a bit mean, but you know. And then you read through the whole article, it gets to the end, like, so is your fridge trying to kill you? No.
No.
You're like, damn it.
Although I'm fairly sure there is quite a high mortality rate in America from vending machines falling on people.
And we're going to end it there. Thanks so much for listening this far, you crazy, crazy people.